Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great radio personalities of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. As always, our original opening theme deserves your attention and my many thanks to the composer, singer, songwriter, and all-around nice guy Drew Jacobs, who will be found in concert coming up Friday, May 6th at Dorn Space. That's on North Main Street in Gloversville. You can get all the details at drewjacobs.com. A long-time fixture on Capital Region Radio made his way to the Radio Split Ranch this month. While you may remember him for, maybe a quarter century on country powerhouse WGNA, his resume before and after that station is quite varied and full. Please relax and reel in the years with Albany's own Brother Lou Roberts. Well, Brother Lou, I wanted to start this with a thank you, because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had a second chance in radio as a part-time career. And we'll get to that story, obviously, as the
well, you're
time
welcome,
goes
Warren,
on
and
here,
I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of your Radio Ranch thing.
Yeah, I'm loving this, and if you've listened to any so far, you realize that anything goes. We'll just have fun. Just remember, my granddaughter might listen, so,
well, it's funny you say that. I was going to ask, do you have the little beeper, the sensor, beep,
Post-production if necessary, yes.
I'll try to be good.
Very good. So Lou Roberts, my goodness, if there's anybody that I've ever talked to that started younger than me, I think it's you. So tell us first of all, when the radio bug bit you.
When I was born. Actually,
sounds about right.
Actually, growing up in the Capital Region, like around, 1963, 64, I always had a strong interest and enjoyed listening to the famous 1540 WPTR.
Didn't we all?
And, we moved to Colonie, and there was some family function going on for my sister. So it's all women and that. So my dad goes, let's go to WPTR.
Wow.
Oh, my God. 8 years old. Here we are going to 4243 Albany Street.
My Lord.
So go in there. We almost couldn't get in. He banged on the door. And, well, let's go. So somebody caught us. We could see him in, the mirror. Come on in. He flagged us to come in. I'm like, oh. So we go in. And there, behind the booth, was, at the time, Bob Badger.
Okay.
And he says, well, here we are. It's like, and he put me on the air. Hey,
really?
Who are you?
At 8
Louie.
years old?
Yeah. So, Louie, because it's behind the big glass for soundproofing in the transmitter. And from Colonie. So here's this 8-year-old me on the air on 50,000 watt WPTR. In addition, a little note to that story. He was my first boss.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's like I met my boss when I was 8 years old.
That
my
is
first boss.
Now that's a story we have not heard before. That's very interesting. So 8 years old, you didn't have your license yet.
I didn't have a driver's license.
Didn't have a driver's license. Didn't have an FCC
didn't
license.
Have a fishing license. No license whatsoever.
So what did you do to make sure that you could follow your path from 8 years on?
Luckily, my mom and dad were very supportive.
Good.
I mean, they'd buy me these old. Well, not old, but new record players and stuff. And, when they had the money, they'd buy records for me, current records and that. Before that, it's like the kiddie record. Here's Donald Duck on my little radio station. So I always had, at the time, the pirate station that actually wasn't on the air.
Okay.
So I had my brother-in-law and sister gave me this microphone that didn't work, but I made it look like it was into an amplifier and stuff. And the way I'd intro records and stuff. So that was that.
Wow.
I've always, as far back as I can remember.
Wow.
I always wanted to do that.
That is something. And when did it finally happen that, obviously you had to take did you take an FCC test with for elements 2, 3, and 9, I think they were, yeah.
No, was it 2, 3, and 9?
I forget.
1, 2, and 9.
1, 2, whatever.
Yeah. I did like everybody else. Took 3 times to do it. First 2, flunked element 9.
Yes.
And they changed it. Because, you had the books, you'd study the books.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, what's this stuff with, if anybody's listening that doesn't know radio, it's something to do technical.
Yeah.
With antenna phasing, you see the 3 towers as opposed to 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm like, what the heck is this? So I go, I want to take a trip to WPTR, Dad. but I want to talk to the engineer this time.
Wow.
And he explained what the antenna phasing and that was, because then we could operate and take meter readings for those particular radio stations.
Exactly. In those days, to be on the station, you did have to have some sort of license. Mm-hmm. Some people went all the way to taking a huge course and getting a first class license, and that way they could even do more things, technically engineering and such. But most of us got the third class with an Element 9 endorsement, I think it was called.
I kind of wish they still did that. There's some technical stuff that would help people, when they're at the station today.
Yeah. But, everything is so much run by computers today. You really, I haven't taken a meter reading in 30 years, probably, 25 anyway.
When I was at iHeart and I'd fill in on whatever show it was, a live show, the morning show on the river. Yeah. I had to take meter readings. They actually had us dial in and do the meter readings.
I didn't know that.
Wow, look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all my years on TRY from 2002 to 2020, I never took a meter reading.
Well, when we were
remember.
When we were in the bunker at TRY, when it was only AM Pixis upstairs, it's like they took the meter readings upstairs.
That's cool.
And so there was always an engineer. Well, at least during the week, there was always an engineer, so we didn't have to worry about that stuff. Yeah.
So you get your license. How old are you now?
14.
Okay.
14, I think. 14 or 15. Before that, because I wanted to do it and they finally hired me, they had me get a provisional license.
Okay.
It's sort of like a learner's permit.
Okay.
The chief engineer would have to sign it and you keep that. It was good for a year and had to renew it once.
That.
So
I didn't know that.
Yep. So I had that.
Cool. And you probably had to have your parents sign working papers because until there used to be the days when
working papers. So I think they did actually. It was so long ago.
Yeah, you don't remember, sure. And I'm sure they did for me as well because I started at 16 and I don't know, maybe that by that time you didn't need them, but
it's like one of the things that Department of Labor, my apologies. Don't get my old boss involved. It was my choice because I wanted to do it. I loved every minute of it.
Sure.
You're running the ball game. You're running the control board for the ball game. Yeah. And of course, we're on the West Coast of the Mets. So, what time the game gets over? 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, boy.
And of course, in those days, I was on the next morning too. So back in first, right at the beginning of the morning.
Yeah. Now, where was this?
At Waby, W-A-B-Y.
Oh, okay. All right.
When they were on Braintree Street, I'd ride my bike down to the station.
There you go.
Maybe 2 miles from it.
There you go. Okay.
So,
14 years old and started again by just running ball games and handling the board stuff.
Yes.
Did you also do some air work as well?
Minimal.
Okay.
I agree with that now. I was too young to be on the air, but it was discouraging as hell, to be honest. But before running the board, they actually hired me to mow the lawn, empty the trash cans, scrub the toilets, if you will.
Sure.
It's gave me a great career today.
Yeah. You never know when you're going to need that, that education.
Where was I going with that? I'm trying to think where that yeah. I remember. I would go down to the station to Waby every Saturday morning. I started doing it in end of 71, 72.
Okay.
And Bob Badger was the general manager.
Wild.
Oh, no. He came in. If he saw me there, you got to get out. Insurance. Okay. So finally, one Saturday I was in there. He comes in. I look at him. I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. He goes, no, wait. He goes, you want a job? Yeah. Whoa. All right. When the weather gets warmer, it was like March or so.
Okay.
And when the weather gets warmer, it's like you're going to take care of the lawn and that, but you got to do he gave me grass seed to plant and that. So I had a little idea of that. And he goes, at the time, minimum wage is $1.85.
Sounds about right.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to start you at $2 an hour.
Whoa.
Really?
Whoa.
And all the, what did he say? It was either $2 an hour and all the grass seed and records you can eat. I know somebody else put that one on one of these boards that I saw. I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one.
No, not the only one. Exactly.
So,
some stations, they will go unnamed at this point, would pay their disc jockeys in bad weeks with route records and free coupons for Carol's Hamburgers.
Now, are those stations still on the air?
No.
Oh, I love the free burgers from Carol's and McDonald's. They were great. Are you kidding? Now, here's one for you.
Okay.
Did you ever do I call it the DJ diet. that's called eating McDonald's and that kind of food 3 times a day.
Oh, I never did it 3 times a day.
I did that for maybe 2 weeks straight.
Maybe
that was
twice
enough.
a day, but mostly just once a day.
Yeah, all right, twice a day. But after a while, after 3 weeks, I'm like, 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm done. I can't eat this anymore.
My favorite story is that I was doing a split shift up in Saratoga Springs. He's drinking water and it's going all over himself.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Jesus. Where's my cleaning boy? That's it. That's all right.
I did a split shift, so I was doing 6 to 10 news. Then I would come back and do like noon to, or maybe it was 6 to 9 news and then 10 to 2 disc jockey.
Yep.
And so I had an hour between 9 and 10 in which to grab some breakfast. Well, it was before the days of breakfast at McDonald's. They had just invented the Egg McMuffin. But
That's what I had for breakfast today.
And I think they may have had, I'm not even sure they had hash browns yet, but in any event, the problem was they stopped cooking those at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So I would get there at 5 after 9, just dashing around the corner in Saratoga Springs. And sometimes there'd be 1 or 2 left over, but sometimes for breakfast, I mean, eating a hamburger, hamburger and fries at, 9:15 in the morning.
Yep.
But that's my, favorite McDonald's story. Anyway.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we're, nothing against McDonald's whatsoever. I mean,
no.
Hell.
Kept us alive.
I had them this morning.
Yeah, between that and...
Don't eat them as much as I used to.
and I'm the same way, yes. I think I've stepped up to Wendy's now.
Oh, have you? Another story. Give me a Frosty, chocolate Frosty.
Yeah, there you
anyway.
go. There you go. So you're 14 and starting to actually get signed and doing some actual work on the radio.
And then eventually I got to know the guy that was running Sunday mornings, which are your religious shows and your ethnic shows.
Sure.
And he was leaving and he goes, I'm going to tell Bob, are you interested? I go, yeah. Sign the station on if it wasn't on the air because I can get anybody to work overnight. It's like, you bet. I want to do what you're doing here.
Yeah.
So he left and they put me on. What a great way to start.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Christmas. We've all worked Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Many times.
But there was one announcement that they let me make. It was for the First Church in Albany, which was on like 11:30 in the morning. It was a live feed from the First Church. So it's like, First Church in Albany, the city's oldest church, founded in 1642, blah, blah. Today's sermon will be blah, 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 by whoever.
Cool.
Okay. And I'm like, that was the greatest thing in the world. I looked so forward to that 10-second announcement.
Now, where was your voice at this point?
Somewhere like
I
there.
was going to say, was it changing or had it changed? Or
Actually, it was probably slowly changing.
Yeah.
I do have I have to get you a copy of this. I do have an air check around.
Whoa.
When I was like 15 or 16.
Okay, we need that.
On Wavy.
Yeah, we need that. Yeah, because the earliest I actually have aren't actual air checks. The earliest stuff that I saved were spots that I did for the morning announcement show in high school. That I recorded that I did at the WSNY studios in Schenectady when I was hired there. Yeah. But I didn't get a real air check until the summer of '70. I'd been on for a year by the time I realized I could do an air check. It had to be down the hall in the production studio with a patch cord or two, and you'd run it, and it would just run continuously.
Right.
But I really don't have anything prior to that, unfortunately. So you've got something really early. That's great.
Yeah, I do have something that I did at my own home radio station, but I'm not going to let you hear that.
No. And I had some of that stuff, but you know what it was? I recorded it on the small 3-inch reel-to-reels, that were battery operated.
Yep.
And when I went to try to play it back on an actual tape recorder,
because it was half track.
It was half track, and in addition to that, it was at 3 3/4.
Yep.
And there were
right.
there were some machines that later on that I couldn't play 3 3/4 on.
Because the radio stations mostly had 7.5 IPS or 15 IPS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a little part of the story too before I just thought of.
Okay.
Because my sister and brother-in-law used to live down on Fairfield Avenue, down the street from Wavy.
Okay.
So this is like mid-60s. Still not old enough to... So went down there to visit. I had some friends down the road. I'm walking down to Wavy. It's like, Gwen... I met the guy was Bob Walker. I think this was his real name, but he ended up doing news at PTR. I don't know where he went then. But I met him and Larry Peck when he was there. Names from the past.
Yeah.
And I saw they had like two at the time. I didn't know turntable. It's like, ooh, they got 2 record players.
Yeah, right.
What do you have 2 record players? It's like the turntables. Well, one keep the music going. I'm like, ooh. So Brother Lou had to get a couple of record players in his house. So I eventually got the second record player from Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
So Radio Lou was on the air.
I tell the story in my book that the only thing I had at first was a 45 RPM that you could stack things on. You could stack a half a dozen. Yeah. And I'd have to, and that's all I had. So I definitely had to talk between the end of one song and when the next one started, waiting for it to drop down and for the needle to go back on it. That's how I learned how to ad-lib between records.
I had almost the same situation.
Yeah.
Like I said, I only had 1 record player.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, let me do this. So manually change it. Pick, the song is ending, blah, 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 blah.
While you're trying to talk.
And
wow.
Then the other one on, and away it goes.
Of course, when you got into radio, we had to do that sometimes, too, because you'd get
that
busy
would never
doing
happen.
something. No, you'd get busy doing something, and you look down and you go, oh, my gosh, I don't have the next record ready to go.
It usually wasn't, oh, my gosh.
No, it wasn't. But, So, we've all been there, done that.
Oh,
and,
man.
bought the T-shirt, or the T-shirt was given to us free.
Yep.
Anyway, so, Waby, how long did you stay there?
Which time?
Okay.
Well, actually, leading into Waby, this is a Don Weeks story involved here, too.
Okay, cool.
It's like I said, I'd go down Don Weeks was the morning man there for a while.
Yes.
Till he got it out of radio and before he went to GY and all that.
Right.
And I said, I recorded my show from my little radio station in my house. And I said, can I bring you a tape of what I do? Yeah. He, really nice about
Nice.
it. What a sweetheart he was.
Yeah.
So I brought it down and he listened to it. Of course, I didn't know anything about editing, like you said, air checks, which you don't do the whole song.
Sure.
Hey,
sure.
what do I know?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I didn't know.
Wow.
And he goes, play that again. So he had me rewind that. I'm like, okay. He goes, that's good. That's really good. You know what? I want you to come down next week. We're going to put you on a promo.
Jeez.
Oh my God. Again, this is where the voice not changing paid off.
Okay.
But he says he's listening. He's got to forward the tape past the music. He goes, when you do this, don't put the whole song on. He taught me how to do air checks.
Air check, yeah.
He says, another thing, when you're on the air, he goes, you speak to one person.
There you go.
One-on-one.
There you go.
So, and then, of course, he was a production whiz.
Yeah.
So I was around hearing some of the stuff that he did. Sure. He says, I got to put these together. Stay out here outside the production room. And I hear him in there. And I'm thinking, nobody swears in radio. And all of a sudden, Don, God rest your soul. I hear these words. I'm like, oh, he's swearing. Oh, no. Well, that was the end of it for me, too.
Now, a lot of Don Weeks stories pop up here in the Radio Split Ranch. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I bet there aren't too many about Waby.
Probably not. Probably not for his early days.
For that promo, too. It ran forever.
Well,
My
that's
mom
cool.
and dad loved it. It was the first voice in the spot. Because, Don would do characters and that.
Yeah.
The line was, I wish I had a copy of it, Mommy, Daddy, the morning funnies are on the radio. Boom, into the promo.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I wish I had a copy of it, but,
Well, you mentioned him giving you early advice. You talked to one person, and I got that. I'm not sure where I learned it, if it was at the first station or not. I think it was. But in any event, I took that throughout my career
I did too.
and always remembered it. And I applied it to TV. Now, TV normally can be you sit around and you share that experience.
I wondered about that because I see so many people on TV go, everybody.
Folks or everybody,
Yeah.
When I did volunteering, was how I was introduced to TV at
That's
WMHT.
how you got me into TV. Well, that part of TV.
Yeah. When I was at WMHT and volunteering back in the 70s, and I'd be on there and I'd be pitching and trying to get folks to become members of the station and such.
Yep.
I always went one-on-one, and some of the other people I'd work with would use the plural, but I always worked one-on-one, and I really think it was part of the success that I had. They kept having me back because I just understood that you really want to connect with that one person that's watching, even if they're in a room with a bunch of other people.
I've had arguments with former coworkers about that particular thing. It's like, how many people are listening to you? Oh, a few thousand. I go, no, one. That makes it personable.
Yeah.
No, everybody knows there's thousands. That's not the idea.
Not the idea, exactly. Yeah.
But it's like, I'm arguing over something here. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So where'd you go after Waby?
Home. Let's see. Let me think. Jeez. after several format changes. At the time,
Well, tell us a little bit about that. What stuff were you playing when you started?
Oh, my God.
And where did it go?
It was oldies top 40 hybrid format, which was
Okay.
big in the early to mid 70s.
Right.
It was a really cool format. We all loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, of course, Wavy never did really well in the ratings, unfortunately.
And a lot of that had to do with the signal. I couldn't listen to them where I was growing up out in
1,000 watt
Glenville.
daytime, 250 watts nighttime.
I really never listened to them growing up. I listened to SNY because it was my Schenectady area
And I
station.
could barely
that was
hear
the same.
SNY at my house in
Exactly.
Colonie.
Exactly.
So I was there when I started 73-ish, and then
Okay.
76. Okay, things aren't working out. They're going to go all news, which I'm like, all news. I want to be a rock and roll DJ. I want to be a top 40 disc jockey or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, so they switched to the NBC News and Information Service,
Mm-hmm.
NIS, 24 hours of news.
Yep.
A couple of my coworkers left, went to other stations, and it's like, I don't want to go anywhere. So I stuck around and I learned more about news that way. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I stuck around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I learned quite a bit on how to do news, what you have to do, making the rounds, calling all the police and fire departments, what's going on. There was one Saturday night I was on. I'm like, all right, let me make the rounds. Call Schenectady Police. Schenectady Police. Hey, this is Lou from WABY News Radio 14. I'm doing the rounds now. What's going on, Schenectady? Well, not much tonight, just some barking dogs. And I'm like, I wished I had put that in my newscast.
Some barking dogs. I
And in
love it.
Schenectady tonight,
Yeah.
kind of a slow night, just some barking dogs reported. I wished I had done that.
Well, I did sort of the same thing. I started out as a disc jockey, and that's really what I thought I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they let me do some news when the newsman went on, the news director actually went on vacation in the summer of 70, probably by this time. So I came in and did his news for like a week and got some on-the-job training doing that. And I thought, you know what? Maybe there's more money on this side of the business than. So when I went off to college, I was majoring in broadcast journalism. I really wanted to be a radio newsman. And when I got out of college, I did a little bit of both at the first station, and then the next station I went to, I became the news director at WGNA. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the other people I worked with, God rest his soul, everybody's dying. God.
Yeah.
Ed O'Brien.
Oh, gosh.
He taught me a few things
I'm
about news
sure.
because he was our newsman.
terrific.
And on air, jock once every now and then.
Yeah.
I remember I go, he goes, can you write, hey, boy, can you write this? It's like, it was about fire somewhere.
Yeah.
So in it, I put, he corrected me on this. I'm like, I'll never forget it. Didn't even think about it at the time. It's like, I said fire eaters are, for the firemen. And the fire eaters were putting out the blaze, and he goes, you got to change that to smoke eaters. Huh? Fire eaters are the guys that do the swords down the throat. I go, I never thought of that.
There you go.
I'm just a
Interesting.
dumb 15-year-old kid. What do I know? 16,
Exactly.
whatever.
Exactly. Well, at least you were being creative. You were trying to think of different ways to call them, different names to call them. Yeah.
Yep.
Good for you.
Yep.
So anyway, so it's now you're doing news, and it's 1976 or so, and where does that lead?
Yeah, high school. It was my senior year in high school.
Okay.
I'm graduating. I was going to be a distant. Oh, it didn't work out that way. I'm doing news now. So
Did you ever think I don't need to stay at this station, or did you think?
Oh, I always try. Well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. Okay. I think I know which story
I know.
you're
You know what
referring
it
to.
is.
Okay.
So then the news service went belly up.
Yeah.
And Bob Badger, still the GM, he goes, go on the air tonight. You're going to play music. What do you want me to play? Anything you want.
Whoa, that's
So
an interesting
I would
format.
do different formats every night.
Really?
So I took a stab at it. What do I have to lose?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was Music Till Midnight with Lou Porter on WABY. Used a different name. Brother Lou Porter.
This is Music Radio. It's 2:00 in the capital city, and I'm Lou Porter with more of the best music. Hey, it's no rumor, it's the Boomer. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 on Wavy 14. Here's Jim Croce with Lou Porter. Bobby Helms in the Sound of the Season with Lou Porter on a Sunday afternoon. And this is Jingle Bell Rock. Hey, and we're taking your hitline requests at 459-9229. Music. Music Radio, WABY. It's 2:45 with Brother Lou Porter getting on a natural high. Here's Bloodstone. Christmas Day and Robert Goulet. Silver Bells off the hit line for Colonie this afternoon. It's 2:13. I got Graham Nash. Memories from 1971 on your Oldies Authority. So please come to the Windy City.
Orange Motors, 799 Central Avenue, Albany.
Partly sunny this afternoon, breezy and mild with highs around 50. Cloudy tonight with a chance of rain developing towards morning. Continued breezy with lows around 40. Rain likely tomorrow, highs in the mid-40s. Chance of rain is 10% this afternoon, 30% tonight, 70% Monday. Right now, 49 WABY, mostly cloudy degrees with Linda Ronstadt.
So that was that, and then what happened? I got to think what else happened. Of course, you're still the engineer for the ethnic shows on the weekend, the religious shows.
Right.
And people always wonder where I got the name Brother from. I used to run a lot of religious shows, whether it was Catholic services, African-American services. A lot of African-American church pastors would come in every week. And it's like, got along great with them. It was a lot of fun. And so one Sunday, the one pastor, he goes, "Hey, it's like, would you like to MC our little gospel extravaganza at the church?" It was somewhere in Albany, downtown Albany, in that area.
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay." He says, "What?" I go, "When?" He goes, "Next Saturday, 7 o'clock, what time it was." I go, "Okay, I'll be there." So I go down to the church. I walk in, and let's just say, it's not racist by any means, but I walk in, I'm the only white guy here.
Oh, boy.
I'm looking around, I look at the pastor, I go, "You sure you want me?" He goes, No, they like you. And it's like, first of all, I walk in, I see, I've never seen this guy, Catholic, you got the organ, that's about it, and the choir.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I go, drums, electric guitars, several micro.
Yeah, they know how to do it right.
Oh my God! So I entered. Here's the acts. Introduce them.
Yeah.
Say who you are. Okay, I did. And here's your first your first act. And they started. I'm like, and I had to leave. I couldn't stay around the whole night. And oh my God, I wish I did. It was just so much fun.
Yeah,
and enjoyable.
So somebody called you brother? They just
I think everybody I worked with did.
Okay.
Because
all right.
he's running he's running the shows. He's running the gospel shows.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so it stuck.
I'll be darned. Good for you. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So Brother Lou has been around for a while. Sometimes the last names change to protect the innocent.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Stay one step ahead of the divorce lawyers, things like that. Yeah.
That didn't work. Anyway.
So again, let's proceed down the timeline. Whatever you can remember of it here.
How much tape do we have?
Don't use tape anymore. Thank goodness.
After that, several format changes and everything. They also did country. That's when I kind of left it for a little bit. I'm like, I'm not going to do country.
You're like the third person to sit in that seat and say that. I'm not playing country music. And,
but how many people went to GNA and worked?
Exactly. Yeah.
My mom and dad, for the most part, listened to country and Western, as it was called back then.
Yes, it was, yeah.
Of course, I'm a kid. I like rock and roll. I want to hear top 40.
Sure.
But in all honesty, hearing those songs, it gave me a knowledge base without even knowing about country music.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Would this be the time to tell the story of when you first applied the first time to WGNA?
Oh, I forgot it. Yep, I jumped ahead too much.
Okay, good, because I really want you to share this story. It's a good one.
I'm sure you're friends with him too, Mark Kaplan.
Oh, sure.
He called. I knew him for a while.
Yeah.
He used to hang out with Ed O'Brien. He'd stop by Wavy. He goes, "Hey, Louie, it's like we have an opening for overnights at GNA." And GNA was on the air. It was like their third year or something.
Okay,
they were in
that's
downtown
about right.
Troy.
Yeah, we went on in '73, so it was probably '76 or there somewhere. Yeah.
So I'm like, and I didn't know much about what GNA was doing. They're a country and Western station. So I didn't say country because then, again, country and Western.
Sure.
Not realizing how much of a religious ownership it was.
Exactly. Owned by a Christian company.
Yep. So I go over there, got the tour of the station, which I thought was really neat. It's like Mark.
No, they're still in Troy. They're up on the
Troy.
third floor of the 17 state. Yep.
Second floor, right? Third.
I think third, but
Anyway.
I carried a lot of AP wire copy paper up those stairs. I'm pretty sure it was 3 floors. But anyway.
Who said radio doesn't keep you in shape?
Right.
So go upstairs, and Mark introduces me to, I believe he was part of the ownership, John Lindster, I think.
Well, then he was the owner. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, he was the owner's family, if you will. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I gave him the tape, the resume like we would do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking to me, he's interviewing me. And he goes, "Hey, Mark says you do some engineering stuff." And I go, "Yeah, I do some of that crap." And it wasn't crap that I said. To which he goes, he hands me an application. And you don't really do applications in radio.
Yeah.
Here you go. We'll call you.
Okay.
It took me 10 years to figure out you don't say that word to a religious broadcaster. That's why I didn't get hired at GNA the first time.
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah.
You also, you might be reading a little into that, but I don't think I heard a swear word cross anybody's lips in his presence in the 12 years I worked for him.
I heard stories where, one story I remember, again, it's hearsay. Somebody got fired because they heard them out in the parking lot, slammed their finger in a car door, and,
Really? I heard an expletive? Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's possible. I don't know.
Stories. Radio has so many stories.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So that was that. I also, earlier, I forgot, I applied at WOKL, another country station.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I was going to do both, but the program director just, he was a pain in the neck.
Didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, call me. Keep calling him. Finally, I'm not calling you anymore. Just tell me yes or no.
Exactly.
God.
Yeah. Okay, so we're into 76 or 77 in there somewhere, and and you're still at Waby, and then the formats keep changing, and where does this...
Went to big band. I worked for and with Chris Martin about 10 times through the years.
So you got some real on-air experience with a whole mess of different formats.
Yep.
Yep. I never did big band. I did an hour of classical music, which I couldn't pronounce half the composers.
There's a furball there,
Right, exactly.
Not enough or whatever.
Whatever it was, yeah.
That's right. Another format.
What?
Waby was religion.
Were
they went
really?
gospel
I'll be darned.
for probably a year.
Yeah.
So I was doing part-time there at the time.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm like, I actually got to that situation where they didn't even put me on the schedule, and they didn't even tell me. So I'd go to the station, and this one guy comes in. I can't remember his name. We used to call him Binky. I don't know why, big guy, but I go, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to work." I go, "I'm supposed to work." He goes, "No, you're not. Here's the schedule." So that happened a couple of times. I'm like, I'm done. I sent him a letter of resignation. I got wind that at the time, which is now what? Oh, it's the Cat 100.9.
Okay.
At the time it was it? No, it was WWOM.
Okay.
Before they changed to WKLI 100.9.
Right.
John Knott was the program director.
Sure.
Our buddy, Mr. Boogie Bob O'Neill, he says, "Hey, Knotthead's looking for somebody over there part-time. Give him a call." So I did. And it's like, did the whole process, the tape resume, got the interview, and they hired me.
FM 101, WWOM. That's Billy Ocean for Downtown Albany this morning on FM 101, WWOM, ramping up another 4 in a row with Caribbean Queen. No More Love on the Run. Barbra Streisand, Barry Gibb with Guilty, Louie Louie from the Kingsmen, and Michael Jackson started us off. A little Motown magic on a Magic Memories weekend in Bend. 15 minutes after 7 with Lou Roberts, 70 degrees on the out and about. Today, expect some fog this morning, then a mix of clouds and sunshine. Warm and humid with a chance of showers and a high around 85. Quick check of some ball scores now in the American League yesterday. Boston took both games of a doubleheader, beating Cleveland in the first game 11-9, and in the second game 7-4. Pittsburgh beat Houston 7-1. That's sports on FM 101. Coming up next, another 4 in a row. We're up to our old shenanigans. Shenanigans Hair Design offers the best perms available, and now through September 30th, Shenanigans Hair Designs at 519 Union Street, Schenectady, is offering a September perm special for only $24.95. That's right, only $24.95, including haircut, conditioning, and styling. Regular $42. At Shenanigans Hair Designs, the highly professional stylist will select a perm especially suited to your hair's needs. You've never seen such healthy, shiny, bouncy perms. Call Shenanigans Hair Designs at 372-0007. That's 372-0007 for the best perm you've ever had. Once again, that's only $24.95 through September 30th. Shenanigans Hair Designs, 519 Union Street, Schenectady. At Shenanigans Hair Designs, we enjoy our work, and so will you.
Coming soon, our tanning and skincare center.
Hey, well, a very good morning to you and yours. 7 after 6. Hi, this is Lou Roberts with you for another Sunday morning get-together, and this is Sergio Mendez on 101. WWOM Elvis Presley on a Magic Memories weekend, wrapping up another 4 favors with Are You Lonesome Tonight? Also, Sergio Mendez with Alibis. Here I Am from Air Supply. And we started off this hour with Chubby Checker doing the twist. Get you up and going on this Sunday morning. Hi, Lou Roberts with you. It's 6:15. Still to come this hour, more of your favorites on the way. Something from Hall & Oates. Also, something from the Turtles. All on a Magic Memories weekend from WWOM FM 101 with less talk and more of your favorites.
The day they hired me, they were having a little staff meeting. Hey, sit in on our staff meeting. Today, it's like Bill Selwood, the owner of the station. Just to let everybody know, we invested in another property and we got it. We just bought WABY. I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
I'll tell you.
And when they bought it, they changed it to what was known as Music of Your Life.
Yeah.
There was a lot of big band stuff there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd fill in down there too once in a while. So I also did big band on Waybeing with that.
So that was, the I guess, quote unquote, second time you worked for Waybe when it was owned by.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way it worked out anyway. Isn't that wild? Well, that's one of the reasons why, and I learned this early on as well, you never burn any bridges because never know when somebody that you get upset at is going to wind up being your boss. And it's happened to me more than once, but I always kept my mouth shut and said I'm not going negative because I may work with this person again.
I was fortunate that I didn't have too many issues with too many people in the business.
Yeah.
So
you know what? And almost everybody that's sat where you're sitting here, Lou, has been telling me the same thing. I mean, certainly it's an ego-driven, profession, if you will.
I've always tried to keep my ego at a minimum.
And most of the folks I've worked with have done the same thing. And I was very lucky to work with program directors and news directors that loved what they did and didn't, give me any hassle about one thing or the other. And I tried to be that way when I became news director or program director.
Yep.
And as long as, you behaved yourself and didn't do anything untoward that was going to hurt the station, I was fine with letting you, be yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
we've all been known to do a few practical jokes.
Of course.
Back to the license. I don't mean to jump back, but I just thought about this because this is going to go with the next thing. So how much more tape do we have? Some of the people that we've worked with through the years, one thing about what we did and what we can do is we've worked with people that we used to listen to on the radio and see on TV.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
But after a while, it's like, yeah, you're just as much of a jerk as I am. So, and then you get along great with this person.
Exactly.
One of the people wasn't a jerk, was Boom Boom Brannigan.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
They let him go at PTR. Of course, everybody remembers him from the good old days at PTR.
Sure.
So they hired him at Waybe. There were like 5 of us in this little production room looking through the glass. That's Boom Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But,
he was revered by us.
Yep.
Kids growing up. Yeah.
I still didn't have my license. I was going to take the test. So Boom Boom didn't have a license either.
Oh, interesting.
Because at WPTR back in the day, they always had an engineer.
They did. Well,
he didn't
it
have
was
to take care of that
50,000 watts. You needed a full-time engineer there all the time. Yeah.
So Boomer and he says, "Hey, Louie, I had to borrow my book to take the test. Hey, Louie, I'll give you a ride to the you took the test at the post office in Albany."
Yep.
And I took my test with Boom Boom Brannigan.
Isn't that wild? My Lord. That's got to be in a book somewhere.
I don't know. I haven't written that book yet. I don't know if I want to. I'm scared.
So that's cool.
Back to the other formats, going back to WWOM, that was a light rock or
it was Wonderful World of Music is what it stood for supposedly.
Me.
Oh, that was before you. Me. Okay, all right. Then they went to a
light rock, format too. And again, it's like I want to be a screaming rock and roll DJ.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, you get all kinds of experience doing all these formats, and it got to the point where I don't really want to be top 40 anymore. I like this little variety of things going on, and people would, they'd bring the. Some of the students from the new school of radio and TV in Albany around. Right. I got any advice? I go, do formats you don't like. Play music you don't like. Because 1, you're going to learn stuff. Two, you would not believe how sick and tired you get you get of your favorite songs.
Sure. Especially when you're, playing the same song every 90 minutes on a top 40 station. You burn out as fast. Yeah.
Yep.
I have a real tough time listening to Sugar Sugar by the Archies because
we all had that one song.
Yeah, there's that song. It was late '69, late summer '69 when it came out. And it was played like, every, not even an hour and a half, it was like every 70 minutes because it was number one for like 9 weeks.
Yep.
We were playing the song, and I was I burned out on that so early and for so long that, it's not, it's not nostalgia for me.
Yep. Well, one of the ones that I can't, this didn't really hit top 40, but everybody played it at night back in the 70s, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, sure.
We played it. Everybody played it. I'm like, I can't listen to this song anymore. I've just heard it so much. And the one bar that I used to spin records at, I had to end with that song every weekend because they loved it. I'm like, God.
Well, one of the songs that comes to mind for me is a song that never got in. I don't think it got past number 27 on the top 40 nationally. Well, this one, and maybe this is a favorite of yours, I don't know, but I have a problem with it. Billy Joel's Piano Man, which is his signature tune. Was never a top 20 hit. It never got into the top 20. Right. And yet today it is played as a standard because it is his signature tune. They call him the Piano Man and the whole thing. I never got into the song, never enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a hit. And yet you still can't listen to an oldie station without hearing that song.
Oldies and a classic rock station.
Yes, both of them. You're right.
Or adult. It's played on almost every format.
It's true.
They haven't made a country version yet, but I'm sure they will. But I remember it in the end of 73 into 74 when it was released. Yeah. Now here's a little trivia tidbit.
Okay.
Again, they're on Columbia Records. I can still picture the labels.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Other one, Aerosmith.
Okay.
It's like, I think John Gabriel was at Waby when this came out too. Dream On, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
It's a single, 45 record. And it's like 1973. It's like, it tanked. 3 years later, we're playing it again. I'm like, what happened? And it became a big hit. So it was actually first released in like 73.
Sure. Yep. Stuff like that happened all the time back then. Yeah. Crazy. So you're over at WWOM.
FM 101, WWOM.
What shift are you working?
Yes. Generally Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Okay.
Right. And back then, the weekend, people did 6-hour shifts.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I don't think I could now, but 6 hours. I want to stay on 12.
But what were you doing? I mean, what were you doing Monday through Friday? I mean, you can't live on part-time radio pay.
I didn't know you could live on full-time radio pay. Just kidding. I was working. I had a couple different jobs, but at that time, I signed on to with a place called Brygart. It was direct mail. I stayed there for 10 years full-time.
I had a connection to that. It was owned by a relative of the company I worked for, Newkirk Products.
Newkirk. Yep. Tommy Newkirk.
Yeah.
Tommy Newkirk.
Yep.
But man, it was those jobs you really don't like, but we all had a good time.
Yeah.
And if you want to go back and do it again, I would.
Yeah.
Physically, I don't know, but I'd like it. But we had a good time there.
Sure.
We made the best of it.
Yeah. Well, Newkirk was the second job after my full-time radio stuff was done. In fact, I was there. The whole time I was working there, I was working weekends on TRY and then the river. But in any event, it was the second job I got that was non-radio, my second full-time job, and I was there for 12 years. And if it weren't for those 12 years then and the money I made outside of radio doing that, I never would have been able to retire when I did.
In all honesty, I'm glad I worked outside jobs of radio.
Yeah.
Because it's like, people are different than radio people. I'll give you that.
It's true.
And it's like all stages of life, all characters, all forms of life. And it's it can be enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely.
So I did that full time for 10 years.
Wow.
I don't think I can physically do it now because it was like a lot of work.
A lot of physical
hauling,
work. Sure.
60-pound mail sacks around.
And
sorting mail as fast as you can go.
Yeah.
It's like, whoo.
Crazy. So weekends on OM, so that lasted a while?
That was about 3 years.
Cool.
3 years.
All right.
Also, in addition to those two jobs, I was, spinning records at this place or at that place. Place I was at for about 4 years. Spinning records every other weekend was Papa's Tavern in Albany.
Okay.
So Saturday nights, every other Saturday night and Friday night, I'd be doing 2 to 3 jobs with that. And if I had a wedding, DJing that, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know how I was alive after that. There were so many times I'd go from the gig on Saturday night and then go to breakfast, then go on WWOM on Sunday morning at 6 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
Do an hour on the air. Yeah. And thank God after that we ran syndicated programming because I'm tired.
Yeah. But that's something that we really haven't talked a lot about here at the Radio Split Ranch in the first few interviews I've done, is the fact that most of us needed some sort of outside job. Even if we were full-time in radio, you needed to do something in addition, either commercials for commercial
voiceover
entities, voiceover stuff.
Yep.
And you and people like Boom Boom Brannigan and others did record hops and weddings and bar mitzvahs and all that stuff.
I did a record hop with Boom Boom.
Did you?
Here's this
really?
14-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever I was.
Yeah.
Hey, Louie, come on. You want to do a hop? Yeah, I'm going to do a hop with Boom Boom.
Cool. Yeah.
And I expected all this elaborate stuff. Nope. He had this little record player, the same kind that I had, a little GE.
Yeah.
That he had wired into a speaker, which made it a little bit louder, and a microphone.
That's it.
I watched him change the record and talk while he's changing the record. I'm like, this is too weird.
Yeah.
It's like deja vu, and it's Boom Boom Brannigan. Oh my God, man was great. He was great.
Yeah, there you go. Terrific.
The other thing, back to I hate to keep bouncing.
Oh,
back
that's
and
all
forth.
right. No, it's all top of mind stuff.
Yep.
Whatever pops up.
Yep.
And you're just happy that some of those memories keep popping up.
This goes back to Waby. It's like I always heard the jocks at the other stations doing record hops. Gabe did them at TRY. It's so and so's doing them at PTR.
Sure.
And I go, how can I get in on that? Because they make good money doing that.
Yeah.
So Ed O'Brien he was also in high school.
Okay.
He says, hey, why don't you come with me? It's like, let's do a record hop. I'm doing a record hop this Friday at Cardinal McCluskey. I was like, okay, I'll bring my records because I had a pretty good record collection. So when we went over there, that's the first time I actually stood in front of a group of people. Talk about a frightening experience.
Yeah.
Again, we had one record player through the school system in the gym.
Yeah.
There are all these people going, and Ed gets on the mic, and I'm just like, oh my God. My hands are shaking so much.
Yeah, sure.
And he's going, the record ends, he goes, hey, welcome everybody, this spiel. And he turns around, looks at me. I couldn't put the tone arm on the record. My hands were shaking. And he looks at me, he goes, come on, start the record. No, I'm trying. Finally, I did it. He goes, you want to talk? I go, nope. 10 minutes later, I'm like, I got relaxed. I go, yeah, let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm sure people are saying, you should have never given him that shot.
Yeah. No, I absolutely understand where you're coming from because besides doing remote broadcasts, which is different, you're still on the radio and you know what you're doing, you know what you have to do. Besides doing that, and of course, perhaps introducing, some acts on stage.
Yep.
I was never a fan of being a disc jockey in front of people.
Yeah.
So I think I did one New Year's Eve party once at a firehouse up in Burnt Hills where I'd gone
How
to
much
school.
did you drink?
And boy, I wish I had, but I lived in Rensselaer County at the time. So, and it was an icy night. It was just, the whole experience was awful. And the thing that sticks in my head, and I can't remember now what song it was, but some big single was really hot at the time, and I didn't have it with me. I had borrowed somebody's record collection.
It happens.
And I had my own records.
Yep.
And for some reason, this was so new within the last week or two of coming out.
Yep.
And it was just all over the radio, but I didn't have it to play that night. And if I had one request for it, I had 10.
Of course.
From the people, I had maybe 70 people in the room.
Now, another thing you got to talk about with this, there were no computers, there was nothing online, no YouTube, so you had to buy the record or get it recorded somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not like it is today.
It has changed a lot today. Yep. I mean, you can do this now with a laptop and a microphone and an amp, and you're all set.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's it.
And you're still doing some. You get the plug in. Yeah, I mean, go ahead, plug.
Brother Lou Roberts, DJ Music Service, available for all your musical needs. 518-416-7549. Call now. Great rates and some dates available. How's that?
I like it.
Wow, I can still do this.
You should be in radio.
I have a face for radio.
That's it too. So are we still at OM? Okay, 3 years or so. 3 years. And so now we're getting to the late 70s into the early 80s. Is that where we are?
70. When did I go to OM? 82. I went there in 82.
Oh,
Left
okay.
in 85.
All right. So we moved on. Good.
Yeah, and I kept getting a call from like Gabe and Bob O'Neill over at TRY.
TRY, yeah.
Hey, come on over and join us. No, I like it here. And, I don't want to leave John not. And he treats me really well. So finally, I'm like, I got to do, because the shifts were different. They were offering me a later shift in the day. Finally, I got to the point, I can't keep doing this.
Okay.
It's like, okay, you got the opening? Yeah, come on over. So I did and gave my notice. And that was it. I went to TRY. Well, AM 98. There was no FM.
Oh, yeah, 980 AM, the great 98.
Yep.
Yeah.
So went over there.
And they were, at that point, playing, now, were they doing oldies yet, or were they still trying to do some top 40 when you got there?
We played, what do we have, 12 current songs.
Okay.
And mostly oldies.
Mostly oldies, okay.
Yeah, Gabe was the program director. He hired me over there. I knew Gabe. I met Gabe when he worked at Waby.
Okay.
Years before that.
Sure.
And we always stayed in touch.
Yeah.
And we still talk to each other as much, and you know
that's
that.
great, yeah.
So him and O'Neill were trying to get me over there. Finally, I go, all right, what shift is available? Right now, it was Saturday and Sunday, noon to 6. Call me. It's like, take me.
Yeah,
I'll be right over.
It's
like I hadn't gave my tape and resume. I guess I don't need this stuff. I know what you do. So here I am, Saturday and Sunday, noon to 6.
Cool.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So stayed there until and even during that period, Uncle Fred Horton came in.
Yeah. And
God rest
this
his
is
soul.
where I'm going to come into the story here shortly. Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, before Fred, Gabe comes in. We had a meeting, and Rick Mitchell was part of he was doing mornings.
Right. A
couple other people. I can't remember. I think it was Vic Marino. Anyway, yeah, Vic was there. So we're going to go. We're changing the format. We're going to go all oldies. And I'm thinking, okay. I was kind of like, it's going to be a little weird. And they had reasons they did that, and they stayed oldies ever since, pretty much. But we did that, and Uncle Fred comes in.
Yeah.
Uncle Fred revamped it. And I got so mad because he wouldn't let me do too much. I was doing character voices and that, doing all kinds of weird stuff, but it was, creativity.
Yeah.
I would do it right on the air. I planned it ahead of time.
Sure.
And then it's like, you're going to read these cards. That's all you're going to do. You can do this and that. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
The next thing he knows, hey, why don't you do this? You did this before, right? Yeah. And what he was doing, he wanted to solidify the oldies format and establish what the heck we were doing. And I didn't get it until, I realized, because then he let me go back to doing a lot of the stuff I was doing before.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So,
yeah. It reminds me of the story, and I may have told this. It's now that you're my eighth victim interview.
Yeah, what's that, Warren?
Yeah, and so some of these stories I may have mentioned before, but when we first signed on WGNA, people weren't finding us easily because we were at the top of the FM dial. There was nothing up at that end of the dial.
And in all honesty, back then, FM wasn't as big.
And that's
people
true,
were still
too.
listening to AM, if you can believe that.
And that's true, too. In fact, AM lasted in this market a lot longer
It did.
in the top 10 stations than almost any market in the country.
And when I was at TRY, come to think of it, we were beating a lot of the
Absolutely.
stations, too.
Yes, a lot of the FM
AM
stations.
only.
But I wondered why we weren't advertising for the first few months we were on the air. I'm thinking, we were in the newspaper when we signed on, and now we need to, start advertising in the papers and elsewhere. And it didn't happen for a year or two. And the whole reason was the management said we need to establish ourselves first. We need to be, so when folks do tune in, we've got it. We've got it down pat, and we sound right, and we're where we want to be.
Yeah.
And so it made sense, and then money was spent later on, and the station did become popular.
Yep.
And they're going to be back in your story here in a little while. So
Yep.
So you're with Uncle Fred Horton at TRY. He comes in from out of market, if I'm not mistaken.
Was he?
Was he out
I don't know
west?
if he was in Syracuse or Hartford.
yeah,
Well, he was out of market.
Okay. Yep. Comes in and revamps the way the jocks are sounding, but then again lets them be themselves after a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Again, I learned a lot from him too.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot from him.
Sure.
And what the bad part of these kind of things that we do right now, I know I forgot people that did help me, and it's like, or influenced me and showed me stuff to do and how to do things.
Yeah. So then this is where I'm going to segue into the story, because it's your your responsibility for the last 30 or so years of my radio career.
I'm so sorry.
I had been let go from a GNA in '86, and after about 18 months, maybe a little bit more, I'm really missing the radio. And but I don't want to go back into it full time, and neither does my wife want me to go back into it full time.
Can't imagine why.
I'm making a lot more money doing marketing for professional services and all sorts of, and a whole new career. But I said to her one day, I said, if I can find a Saturday morning gig somewhere, just for just for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday morning, then we can start our weekend, and we still have our weekend pretty much together. What do you think? Because again, I wanted her happy, happy wife, happy life, the whole thing.
Yep.
And so she said, yeah. That's when I decided I'm going to call Brother Lou Roberts. I don't think we had ever actually met.
I don't think we did either.
But I had been listening to you for years on TRY.
With that thought, I'm not trying to interrupt here.
No.
This happened the other day. I met some other people at other area radio stations, and it was like, oh, you're Brother Lou. And of course, I know, oh, you're so-and-so. I've been listening to you a long time. And then same with me. It's like, it's the business where we all know each other, but don't know each other.
Exactly. Which a lot of Hollywood talks like that. People think that just because you're, all in the movies that you all know each other. And then a lot of times you don't until you work together.
Yep.
So I just called you up one weekday, probably on my lunch hour for my full-time gig. And I just said, do you think there might be a spot for me there on, like Saturday mornings or whatever?
Yep.
And you said, well, I'll put you in touch with, Fred Horton, and I'll vouch for you. Because, again, you were very nice to say, oh, I remember you on GNA. Sure, that whole thing.
And I remember Fred asking me, because I think I told him about you, and then he comes in to ask me about you. And I go, Fred, I said, I remember him on GNA. He was very smooth, real easygoing style.
Thank you.
And he goes, he'd be good. I go, yeah, I think he'd be good.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Pretty much, yeah. And he did ask for an air check, and that's smart because he's the program director.
And he didn't know what you sounded like.
Yeah. And within days, I was working there Saturday mornings. That lasted for 4 years. Yeah.
Yep.
It was fun. We had a great time together, and we would bump into each other. I think eventually.
Actually, I was, because some things happened. I was doing nights. Then Uncle Fred and Richie Phillips left to go to GNA, which was like, they went to GNA. Yeah. Wow. Gabe calls me up. You're doing afternoon drive. What do you mean I'm doing afternoon? It's like Fred and Richie went to GNA. Oh, okay. So I was off nights. I was doing 7 to midnight. Yeah. Went on afternoons. And then next thing, a few things happened. Of course, we didn't have a program director. Next thing I know, my buddy, Walt Adams, comes in, who was at GNA. Yes. He was programming it for a while. Yeah. He comes into TRY. He's the program director. Yeah. Well, then somebody else came in, and then it's like, we had Jerry Tyler and I were alternating like Saturdays. They didn't want that, which I get. Yeah. So, I mean, God, we got a system here. This is great. We each have every other Saturday off. In radio, that's a rarity. Yeah. So what we did was like they kept calling. My buddy Bill Early kept calling me because Fred kept telling him, try to get Louie over here. Let's get Brother Lou over on GNA. Wow. So I'm like, no. I don't like country music. I hate country music. I'm not going to. So finally, the switch was too much. People are coming from there. So I'm like, Bill was already over at GNA. He was there before all of us. Yeah. Like, screw it. Okay. How many? So finally, I had enough of what was going on. Call him up. I call Bill Early. I go, it's like, that opening's still there? Yep. And he told me this. He goes, you know what? I think we got Louie. So I called Fred. He goes, yeah, I want you over here. Come on over. Cool. So I let Bill know. I called him when he was on the air. I go, hey. He goes, what? How many country hits in a row do you want me to play? Because I would listen to see what they were doing, which we all do. The station you're going to go to, you want to listen to. He goes, oh, you're coming over, huh? Yeah. So that was that. Yeah. And I'm like, I swear I'd never play country music because I grew up with it, and Well,
and part of this story goes back to the one that I mentioned a little while ago about not burning bridges, because when I left GNA, Walt was named program director, took my spot, didn't get any more money, and was still on the air. I was an off-air PD at the time when I was
Did you get more McDonald's certificates for free burgers?
Probably, yeah. So here I'm, Walt is working for me when I leave GNA, and 2 years later, I'm working for him as he comes over to program at TRY. Yep. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I worked for Walt for a while. Then later in the career, after I left GNA, I went to Empire Broadcasting, 101.3 The Jockey. Walt was there. Yeah. And I became the program director up there when Neerav Patel left. And before that, Walt stepped down from morning, so I went to the morning show. Walt's still doing weekends, the jazz show. So I'm his boss.
Yeah.
And
Go figure.
okay, it's been a while, so I moved on to iHeart. And then things happened there, and I get a call from Walt Adams, who was back up at the company that owns the stations from Empire. Mm-hmm. He says, "Hey, Brother Lou," it's like, "What's going on?" "We have an opening up here." I go, "Wait a minute, let me get this straight. See, you were my PD, you were my boss at TRY. Then I was your boss at the Jockey, and now you're going to be my boss again." "Yeah, that's about right."
That's radio. Well, that's radio for certain. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's not jump ahead too far, because you had quite a storied career at GNA.
Yeah.
You were there for quite a while.
Yep. Yeah, a little bit. Maybe 26 some odd years.
Is that,
like that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, obviously quite the following, and did some great programming at the time. What was the name of the show that you would do in the evenings?
Crying, Loving, or Leaving.
That's it, yeah.
It was me and another guy that you know pretty well, Dick Stark.
Yes, yeah.
He used the name Dick Stark. Of course, we all had nicknames.
Yes.
They said, "Keep the Brother Lou."
Yeah.
And, everybody at GNA had nicknames. It was a great catch. Fly 92 was doing it, too.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all right. So, I'm on nights, and all of a sudden, we're going to start this request and dedication show.
Right.
Okay. So, the shifts, I loved this. Nights, it was evenings. Your shift was 6 to 10 p.m.
Wow.
2 4-hour shifts. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is great. But that obviously changed after a while.
Yeah, but and so Dick had been midnight to 6, and when I hired him there just before I was let go.
All right.
And so, but all of a sudden now he's 10 to 2, 10
and
p.m.
good old,
to 2 a.m.
God rest this guy's soul, Country Chet Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chet was a good guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he
Chet
did mornings for me at GNA for a long time.
Of course, I think when you were there, did he live in the house behind
Oh,
GNA?
absolutely. Yeah.
The GNA was in a mansion.
Yeah.
At this time in East Greenbush.
I'll never work at a station as nice as that ever again. It was the setting was just gorgeous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. My ex-wife, who was the receptionist there, I got her the job there. She one of the few times that we talked since we split up years ago. She goes, "Oh, I found this picture. It was a framed picture of the mansion. Do you want this? I'm going to throw it out."
Oh,
yes,
gosh,
I want
yes.
it. It's hanging in my studio.
Yeah. Nice.
In my house.
Nice. Yeah.
So, anyway, good old Chet Good. He did the 2 to 6 a.m.
2 to 6 a.m. Yeah.
You go there in the day because you go there for meetings or whatever, and there's Chet on the riding lawnmower taking care of the grounds, and man, he did a good job.
He did a great job.
And it's like, I go, "How do you do this? Stay up all night?" He goes, "Didn't you just see my little bag out there?" "Okay, Chet." He goes, "I was thirsty."
Yeah. No, he was a terrific guy. His whole family was. Whole family was.
Carolyn.
Yeah. Just a great group of folks, and a Texas boy that made good in upstate New York of all places. Yeah.
Yeah. A bunch of us got together on the night that he retired.
Nice.
We went there. We even popped champagne on the air.
Oh, that's nice.
So we're like 10 of us in the studio. It's like, we got to do this.
Well, my favorite Chet Good story, I actually got a couple. First of all, I was big, as program director, big into the card reading as well. There were always flip cards to read, things you needed to do. And so, I had different colored cards, so the pink cards, 3x5 cards were, this time of the hour, and there was, blue and also.
Wow, you're a pain in the butt.
I really was, yeah. Too anal, to be very honest with you. But at one point, I say to Chet, you're not supposed to be reading that stack here. You're supposed to be reading from this stack here. He goes, "I'm colorblind."
Oh my God.
I had no idea. I said, "So you can't tell the difference between this pale pink and this pale blue?" He says, "Well, sometimes, but sometimes I get confused." So that's one of my favorite stories.
Oh my God.
Guy, and he never said anything to me until I asked.
I wonder if he was colorblind.
I'm
going to do what I want.
That's possible too. Now, and then the other story, when we first started on GNA, or at least when I was there, programming from the late 70s, through the mid 80s, we would give a different, whenever we did the weather, we would salute a different part of our listening area, different towns in our listening area, which
Local.
At the top of the FM dial at that time was quite wide. I mean, we were reaching into almost out to Utica and almost down to Poughkeepsie.
GNA signal is unbelievable.
Absolutely
Big
is.
50,000 watt signal. I never realized how
with
huge
the tallest tower in the Helderberg.
One of the tallest, yeah.
And so one day I hear him starting the weather forecast, and he goes, "Hi, New Platts," and he does the weather. So I walk in. Now he's been with me at this point probably for 5 years, okay? And I walk in and I say, who did you just salute?" He says, "New Platts." I said, "Look at that." Oh, New Paltz. I've been saying it wrong for 5 years.
Let me ask you a question. Was he mowing the lawn that day? That may have had something to do with it, too. My Chet good stories, when I worked Sunday nights at GNA.
Yeah.
It was 6-day work weeks.
Yeah.
6 to midnight. I think it was 4 hours on the air. And, of course, you run the public affairs shows from 10 to midnight.
Yeah.
And, of course, by then, there were a couple of times that, let's just say I dozed.
Yeah.
Boom. And Chet would be coming in. About 10 minutes to midnight, all of a sudden, I'm half asleep. I had the door of the studio open. I hear, yeah! Chet's downstairs calling, and I'm like, oh, good, he's here.
He's here.
I don't know how many times he'd go, I forgot my glasses. Can you hang around for it? Yes, Chet. Go.
Yeah, but
and I remember,
they
were tape cartridges. They looked like 8 tracks.
Yeah.
So everything, all the music, everything was on these carts. It's like, oh, there it is. Cart 26 puts it in the machine. It was lionized by the Eagles. 6.5 minutes. I'll be right back. Had to go back to his house to get his glasses. Good old Chet.
Yeah, no, he was great. Great stuff. Great stories. And he was a carpenter to boot. So, I mean, he would build things. Yeah, he would build things for us when we needed to and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so he was a good guy.
Man.
All right, so GNA for how? Only
26 years.
26 years, my
And,
Lord.
of course, then I'm doing the nightclubs, like Playfields, the country nights there. Gary Briggs got that started.
Yeah.
And it's like almost every week we were there.
Yeah.
And
all this time, pardon me excusing, but you'll be glad I did, the station is number one. This,
we were kicking ass.
Yeah, I mean there were there were people when I first started working there that said, "What are you doing there? That'll never be a big station." Now it helped that we had the signal that we did, but it also helped that some professionals went through there, like Fred Horton and others, that turned it into huge success.
This is upstate New York. This is Albany, New York. Why is country doing so big here?
Yeah,
well, okay, we'll take it.
It was number one for a long, long time.
What I found at night. The difficulty I had, I was there, just looking at the ratings. I don't want to get too much into that, but we were battling. There were 3 that would always flip between 1, 2, and 3. Always. Mm-hmm. It was me at GNA. At the time, I think it was B95.
Okay.
WYJB and WGY.
Okay.
It was pardon my French, but it was a bitch to get up to number 1. It would, the 3 of us
and to stay
flip-flopping.
there.
I'm like, can't really do anything about
Always
this.
tough, yeah.
They're all 50,000 watt stations,
exactly.
But man, what a battle.
Yeah. And part of that, of course, you have to remember is that the ratings was, even as scientific as it was, sometimes all you needed was one really good ratings diary to be completely your station, and it could change everything.
Or that one book could go, as we called them in the books, it would go to the place where you're not popular.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's possible too. Yeah,
generally in the cities, the urban settings, and that
not as big.
GNA didn't do as well, but
exactly.
You get out to the outskirts.
TSA, total service area. You guys, raked it in. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys, you too. You were there.
Well, I was there. Yeah, and I did get stationed into the top 5. I was very happy to say, and and it had only been on the air for 11 or 12 years, and that was pretty good for country music.
Yeah,
but the big success for the station was after I got out of the business, which was a smart move on many people's parts.
That's right. Before you went to TR1.
Before I went part-time.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to say when Fred went over there and was trying to establish that format, the country format.
Yeah.
See, no more country and western.
Yeah,
country
you're right.
format, contemporary country.
Yep.
I mean, we had liberty, especially when I was doing the Saturday Night Request show. We had records in the studio. We had stuff on cart. In fact, he added Sweet Home Alabama on cart. Play it if you want. Okay, I'm playing the Doobie Brothers in GNA.
Yeah.
But we eventually got away from that. And I remember it was so contemporary, not like it is now where it's, the top 40 country songs, because we played older stuff too. Somebody goes, hey, can I hear Divorce by Tammy Wynette? Sure. Okay, 107.7 WGNA. Here's a classic for Bill in Albany. It's DIVORCE, Tammy Wynette. I'm listening to it and I'm like, boy, this just doesn't fit. So I just backed away from the older stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It just didn't sound
it happened nationwide. All of a sudden,
Yep.
these artists that built country music radio were no longer being heard. Yeah.
Brooks and Dunn. Little story about them.
Okay.
It's like their first song. I'm pre-selling, going into a commercial set. You say a couple of songs or artists coming up. So I go, hey, coming up, we've got, Alabama and Eddie Rabbit. and a new duo, Garth Brooks and Holly Dunn together.
Oh, jeez.
So it's like, I hadn't heard the song. I knew nothing about it. Again, no internet. I'm like, okay, put it in. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Garth Brooks. That's definitely not Holly Dunn. Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey, we didn't know that it was Janie Fricke for a long time after Frick. Yeah. And I don't know, I'd imagine finally a record person must have stopped by or called us up and said, by the way, it's Fricke. Because again, there was nobody else in the market playing, what we were playing when that particular artist started with us. So, it happens. Yeah, it happens. Okay, so after,
wait,
go ahead.
There was one, I knew I was bringing up the Playfield story.
Okay, yes.
An old friend of mine stopped by, and she says, I got a bone to pick with you. What? She goes, I lost money on you. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, the one bar that we used to work at and hang out at, the Shoestring Inn in Albany, I told them I was going to GNA. Come to find out, they had a bet, because they knew I didn't like country at the time. It's like, they had a bet I wouldn't last there.
Whoa.
And she goes, you made me lose money. I go, why didn't you get me in on that bet?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow.
There are people betting on me.
But did you really think you'd stay there as long as you did?
No.
I mean, none of us do in radio.
I was going to say any radio station.
Yeah.
Any radio station.
Because what's going to happen is either the format is going to run its course, or the program director is going to run his or her course, or the ownership's going to change, and so the format will change.
In this day and age, it's like one of the reasons that it helped me get out of radio. It's just the nature of the beast, and it's not just radio; it's anywhere.
True.
It was like consolidation of departments.
Yeah.
Across the country, not just local.
Yeah.
But so I think you went through that also.
Yeah. So we still got a ways to go, because you left GNA and had another good career with the folks at Empire Broadcasting, right?
Yeah. Well, for the few years I was there. Yeah. And when I went up there, it felt like more of the radio that we knew.
Yes.
Or it was fun, and you could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that was about, like I said, 2.5 years, almost 3. Wow.
Okay.
It was that long.
Yeah.
So, of course, we did all we worked at all their stations, which were 101.3 The Jockey. 1240 AM.
Oh, isn't that
which
wild?
They took the call letters WPTR.
Yeah.
I worked at WPTR. I programmed WPTR.
On the frequency that was the first station I worked at, 1240. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm trying to think what the other one, 106.1, which was a small transmitter called Translator. I forgot which one it changed so much through the years. And the other one, AM 900, which you knew very well, but guess what the call letters were? WABY. I'm like, I'm going to die in this place. My God.
Oh, gosh.
So stayed there a few years, and they had some issues, and, it's like they closed the doors.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a couple of calls, and a couple of people alerted me to a production opening over at iHeart Radio in Latham, Albany.
Yeah, Albany, yeah.
Yeah, right. What the heck? So gave John Cooper a call, and ended up going over there.
We got to work together again. It was terrific.
Yep.
Yeah. And what I was thrilled about, when you were first hired, it was to do production, to do commercials and such. And then eventually, and not too long into your stay there, they realized that you could sub on more than one station. You subbed on TRY.
TRY 99.5, The River.
The River, yeah.
When I was hired in the interview, John Cooper says, you can make some extra money doing some voice tracking, but right now your production. I go, nope, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
And so I figured I'd do that.
Yeah.
And, Randy had an issue, Randy McCartan.
Yeah.
Had an issue. He was the program director of TRY in the River at the time. And he's the one guy that was supposed to do the shift. He goes, it's like, okay, I voice tracked that shift, but I can't do it next week. It's okay. So I'm just passing Randy in the hall. I'm hearing this. I go, Randy, if you need somebody to fill in, I go, I can do it. He goes, I never thought of that. Next thing, hey, you want to fill in on the River this week? I didn't fill in on the smaller station TRY, and I hate to say that, but it was lower power.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to fill in on a 50,000 watt station.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
So, and then of course TRY.
Yeah.
So
we haven't talked enough about this, and it's only because we're old and we've been around here forever. But Randy McCartan,
around where? I already forgot.
Yeah,
where am I?
Randy McCartan came into this market in the mid to late '90s and took over programming of the River, and I was there part time. And I found him to be a tough taskmaster. Again, I was only part-time, but I was included, which was nice. The management always, this is back when Dame Media owned the station.
Okay.
They were always good about inviting the part-timers to their meetings. And there were meetings, maybe not weekly, but at least monthly, we had full disc jockey meetings for all the 3 stations that they owned and ran at the time before they sold out to Clear Channel. And so Randy was the first person that introduced me to voice tracking. He said that Tom Robinson, who was working at the river at the time, was going to voice track his 7 o'clock for 7 to 8 hours so that we could all meet and he could be there. Usually, in the good old days, there was always somebody back at the station that missed the Christmas party, that missed this, that, and the other thing, the disc jockey meeting, whatever, because we had to be live on the air. And I said, well,
I
that's
had a few of those that I missed too. Yeah, definitely.
And I looked Randy in the eye. I said, you really think this voice tracking thing's going to catch on? I said, I mean, there are certain things we do live that you really can't duplicate voice tracking wise. And boy, was I wrong, because within a couple of years, that's all I was doing.
Yep. And the thing about voice track, again, it's another kind of a talent you develop and you work around it. You got to be able to be flexible in that business.
And what I always did, and I think most of us tried to do, is to sound as live as possible.
Yep.
I would very rarely redo a break if I had just a little flub up of one word
here.
or two. You leave it in,
because if you're live,
to sound
you're on there
real.
live, you can't redo it.
Exactly. And so that's what I always did when I was working voice tracking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I got to tell you this: when I was voice tracking, it's like, okay, break, and I'm like, the break is the talk time. It's like, do your show prep, get in, do it, and it's like, okay, half an hour, I'm done with a 4-hour, 5-hour shift. I'm like, I'm exhausted. What the heck? Yeah. And then I got to fill in on the River Morning Show live. First time I did live radio in a while, and I'm like, do what I had to do. A couple of breaks. I go, sitting there looking up show prep. Why am I not tired?
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I got time to sit back during the song.
It's the pacing. Absolutely.
Now, you did morning? Yeah, you did weekend mornings. Mm-hmm. Did you do mornings full time in radio?
At GNA for a while, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that happened to me when I went up to, I filled into mornings in GNA a lot. When I was at the jockey doing mornings and I forgot what it was, 106.1 the X, whatever that AAA format. Mm-hmm. Because I did mornings, of course, you're getting up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I still wake up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And Richie Phillips said the same. I said, anybody that worked mornings, Gabe said he still does too.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And of course, I did more weekend mornings, Saturday mornings on TRY for those 4 years.
That's right.
And then segued into, eventually went over to Oldies 99.
I forgot about that.
Before that became the River, okay? And then it became the River, and I did almost 7 or 8 years doing Saturday mornings on the River. So mornings, I had no problem with mornings.
Yeah.
But back to your voice tracking thing, I will say this. I was never a big guy on show prep prior to getting to the studio when I was
really
live.
Wasn't either.
When I was live.
Mm-hmm.
But when we had all of a sudden do voice tracking, where we're going to do, I could do my 6 hours on TRY. Toward the end, I was doing noon to 6 on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. I could do those 6 hours. Shift. Yeah, I could do those hours those 6 hours in about 45 minutes in the studio.
Yep.
But I didn't want every break to sound the same, so in order to not have that happen, I prepared for almost every break. I had something ready to go that it didn't sound repetitive and it sounded interesting to listen to.
Yep.
So I will credit voice tracking with making me be better with my show prep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. One of the other things, of course, everybody that knows, you worked in radio. Is it like WKRP in Cincinnati? Well, it can be, and we've worked with all the characters,
yes,
believe me.
Yeah.
Good old Dr. Johnny Fever. I did this a few times and people died when I did it. It's like, let's just say I did it at GNA a few times, and I think I did it at the jockey. I go, 107.7 WGNA, Today's Country. That's one song. Here's another. And I just started. Johnny Fever did that. And they look at me like, and they burst out laughing. That's great. I go, I stole it from WKRP.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I stole a couple of things over the years. Back in the mid-70s.
And not the turkeys don't fly. I hear that one more time.
Back in the mid-70s, there was a monthly magazine called American Air Checks Magazine, and they came on cassette.
they'd send air
you
checks.
could hear could hear air checks from all over the country in different markets. They would feature a different market each issue. It only lasted a year or two, and then it went under, and it was expensive to buy. It was
money.
not cheap, but I found the money to do it because I really wanted to hear these guys. I stole such great lines.
We all did.
There's one from KFM BFM out in San Diego, and the guy starts talking and he goes, and which damn button do I push next?
Yep.
No, I didn't use damn on the air usually, but he did, and then he hits the button, and then my favorite of all time was after making a mistake, sometimes two mistakes within a few seconds of each other, I'd stop and I'd say, is it too late to call in sick?
Yeah.
And I borrowed that from somebody, too.
I remember hearing you do that.
Because I made mistakes all the time.
Here's another little tidbit of the business in general, especially when we were live. There was one day when I was on the air at CRY. I was stumbling. Oh, it was live. There was no voice tracking. I'm stumbling over everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God. If you're on the air 1 or 2 days a week, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I go out, meet some friends afterwards, and I'm kind of bummed out. They go, hey, I heard you today. You sounded pretty good. I'm like, are you deaf? I go, are you kidding?
It was the worst show I ever had. Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing, I still run into this guy. He's still a good friend of mine. I'll use a line on the air. Back in the day when you could ad-lib a little bit like that and have some fun. Mm-hmm. So I remember it was Clint Black, Burn One Down. And he comes up to me, he goes, hey, I like that Arsonist love song. I go, what are you talking about? Burn One Down, Clint Black, that's the Arsonist love song. I'm like, to this day he reminds me of it. I go, how do you remember this stuff? I'm like, I did it and I don't remember it.
Sometimes somebody says something on the radio that just, it just sticks with you, And
well, also back then you probably air checked some of the other stations and even local, PTR, TRY. Sure. I had one to this day. Bob O'Neill talks about it too. It's like when PTR was doing PT 154, and it was over the introduction of Honky Cat by Elton John.
Okay.
PT 154, you can hear Boogie, blah, blah, blah. And we both go, every time we hear that, we just think of that.
Yeah, exactly.
That break.
Oh, yeah, it sticks with you. Absolutely. Yeah.
That break.
Yeah. So your illustrious career in radio kind of came to the same end that mine did.
Oh, yeah.
A forced retirement, if you will.
Yep. Which I now work out of radio at a place called Glen Eddy. It's a retirement home.
Yeah.
Maintenance, janitor, floor tech, whatever they need.
Yeah. Kind of biding your time toward retirement.
The big R.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
pretty much.
We've all done it. Yeah.
Yep. But it was a great run. I just wished I could have lasted for, to make the 50-year mark. Didn't quite make it.
Oh,
but
bummer.
The funny part is, there are still spots with my voice on, yours too, that are running on a couple of stations around here. People go, I thought you were out of radio. I go, I am. Why? I heard you. I go, oh yeah, you'll hear them till after I'm dead.
Oh yeah.
I said, I'm going to call the station and say, can you put reverb on it? Because I'm on my deathbed.
I had some people in the neighborhood here when they let me go from WMHT after 4 years of full-time work there, and my voice was probably there for another 3 or 4 years on a lot of stuff. And I had people still thinking, even in this neighborhood, still thinking I worked there. Well, I saw you on a break that you did just the other night. I said, well, that was recorded back in 2004.
The thing I'll get is like, do you get any money for that? No. You should take them to court. No.
Can't do that.
I said, there's a rule. I said, I had arguments with management back when I was at the Jockey with the owners, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, take their voice or we're going to get sued. I go, this is our property.
Yeah.
They did it when they were here and they were employed by us. No, it's our property.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Lou, this has been terrific, really.
And, there are more stories that we didn't even cover.
And, the last, if you listened to Brian Jackson last month, he, at the end, said, this is part one of our interview. I have many more stories to tell,
Oh, God, he's got a ton of stories.
I do have a few more original interviews I want to do first, but there are people I will invite back, absolutely.
Now,
because
I know, Brian, of course, we all have some of those stories. You better check with us before you air them, so to say.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And sometimes you wonder, especially with Brian, how many of them he really made up, because he's very creative.
He is. He is. Oh, my God, he is.
But I look forward to, again, seeing you again soon. I know that your full-time work has kept you from some of our lunches, but you'll keep getting invited until we find a way to get you there.
I'm going to throw something into the ring here.
What's that?
Since we all have you have the get-togethers, the Louis lunches, once a month, once every other month.
Not named for you, by the way.
No, that was actually a Louis. I forgot.
I've forgotten his name as well, but
Ed Louis.
No, it's not. No,
it's another Louis.
No, it's another Louis from WGY days back in the 70s. Yeah.
It's all Lou all the time. Here I am. What is it? Not the podcast. It's actually do a video.
Oh,
I forgot what that's called.
I guess it could be a vlog.
Vlog.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Really? You really think people want to see disc jockeys?
That's true. I got to put powder on my head because there's nothing up there except a shine. So, told you I got a face for radio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll take it under advisement. I suppose I could set something up over in the corner there, and they could just watch us doing this. But all it is two guys, old guys, with a lot of white and gray hair, just using hand signals back and forth with each other.
I forgot to ask you, is this a union shop?
No, it's not.
Okay, we're safe then. Okay.
So again, great seeing you and great catching
Warren.
up.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
the
much.
stories, and we will do this again sometime.
And I have to admit, I did this without any drinking. I didn't have one beer.
Yeah, but you did spill the water.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Take care.
I'll see you later.
Radio Split Ranch.
Like many of our previous visitors to the Radio Split Ranch, Brother Lou and I could have easily spent a few more hours just swapping stories of the broadcasting business from the last half century. I forgot to ask him about the fun we had working together on the local PBS TV affiliate when I had him do voice work and guest on the Great TV Auction back in the day when I was the manager there. But I did remember to ask him to count up how many different call letters are on his resume to add to our running count. He made stops at 14 different stations, not counting multiple stints on a couple. That brings our call letter count in 8 interviews to 93. Gonna have to get the calculator out soon as we head into triple digits. Will our guest next month take us over the 100 threshold? You'll have to join us to find out. A bit of radio history to throw at you now as we wrap up this month's offering with another air check of the one and only Chris Warren. This one goes back 28 years to the first weekend of the newly branded WRVE, The River. Previously formatted as Oldies 99.5 FM, WGY-FM changed to The River, playing classic rock after being bought out by Dame Media out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on March 4th, 1994. And I was just one of a couple of jocks who kept our jobs through the format and call letter change. I remember getting a call from one Oldies fan asking why the heck we were calling ourselves The River. Why not just say the call letters? And no one had branded a local station like that before, so thus the phone call. So here's what it sounded like on that first weekend, which for me turned into about 7 years doing Saturday mornings on the river. A couple of minutes into this air check, listen for an explanation of what the new format was promising our listeners, why it was different from anything they'd listened to recently. And if I sound like I'm trying to feel out how to handle this new format after rocking with the oldies for the previous 6 years, it's because I was. Enjoy as much as you can take. Join us again for more fun next month. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
The River with JoJo Gunn. When's the last time you heard that? Run, run, run. Before that, Foolish Hearts, Steve Perry. And Take Me to the Pilot, Elton John. From The River, 99.5 WRVE. Hear the Animals. The River. Finally, a rock and roll radio station that sounds okay at work. It's The River, 99.5 WRVE. Here's Genesis. The River with Genesis, Land of Confusion. Of course, the man Phil Collins at the lead. Before that, music from the Stones, Brown Sugar, and we heard the Animals. It's My Life. From The River, 99.5 WRVE. And it continues. Oh, the greatest stuff you've ever heard, right? All put back to back. Here's Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. The River with Toto, Hold the Line, and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. From the River, 99.5 WRVE. I'm Chris Warren. Welcome to a Sunday afternoon, our first weekend at the River. We're happy you're a part of it. Got some Accuweather Forecast coming up. Not too bad. Think you'll like that. And also the Allman Brothers Band and Rod Stewart standing by at the River.
You're on the River, 99.5 WRVE, the Capital District's newest radio station, where we now make the following promises to you. On the River, you will never hear any heavy metal music or rap. No sleepy, wimpy oldies. You won't hear us talk over the beginnings of the songs because we like the music just as much as you do. We won't play any silly games or contests on the air because we know you're really tired of all that. And we won't subject you to the hype you hear on the other stations. What you will hear is an amazing variety of rock and roll from people like the Stones, Elton John, Eric Clapton, Van Morrison, the Allman Brothers, Fleetwood Mac, the Doobie Brothers, David Bowie, and the Beatles. And you'll hear great stuff the other stations have forgotten. So just listen for a week. We know you'll love what you hear. It's rock and roll without the hard edge. On the River, 99.5 WRVE.
Lens Crafters, helping people see better 1 hour at a time.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from the River. Cloudy tonight, high 50. Cloudy now, and 40 in Albany, 39 in Schenectady, and 41 in Troy. It's an amazing variety of rock and roll on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Rock and roll without the hard edge. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Bruce Hornsby and The Range. Look out any window. Before that, Broken Arrow from Rod Stewart. And the Allman Brothers kicked us off with Whipping Post on WRVE. The River. Happy to have you here on a Sunday afternoon. I'm Chris Warren. We've got 2:36 Sunday afternoon. You're enjoying it. The River reminds you, March is Eye Donor Month. The Lions Eye Bank at Albany asks that you become a donor and share the gift of sight. For more information, call us at 346-9999. In touch with the Capital District, we're the River, 99.5 WRVE. Here's Styx on the River. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Steve Winwood a couple of times, and back in the high life again. Mechanical difficulties of the disc jockey variety. Before that, Styx, Come Sail Away. This is The River. We're glad to have you here on a Sunday afternoon. I'm Chris Warren. We're at 2:47. Thanks for joining us. Going to check the exclusive AccuWeather forecast next from The River. And then on the other side of that, some good stuff coming up. The Eagles, Jackson Browne, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and a lot more from The River.
Elegant yet casual living.
Calling 295-7128.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from the Cloudy now, and 40 in Albany, 38 in Schenectady, 39 in Troy. We don't play games. We play rock and roll. We're The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River with Jackson Browne. Here come those tears again. John Cougar before that, I Need a Lover. And the Eagles started it off with Best of My Love. From The River, 99.5 WRVE. From their first album, here's Crosby, Stills, and Nash. This is your station for the most rock and roll in the morning. This is The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE with Argent. Hold Your Head Up. Before that, Stevie Nicks, Stand Back. We heard from the Doobie Brothers at Great Blackwater. And the Marrakesh Express started us out with Crosby, Stills, and Nash from their first LP. Welcome to The River. Glad to have you along. Heading home from the car show or heading back down to the Nick for the Mac Men's semifinals tonight. Thanks for trying us out. We're The River. We've got James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt coming up. And, of course, the AccuWeather forecast is next on The River. 99.5 WRVE.
This is rock and roll with a hard edge. Rock and roll without the hard edge.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from The River. Remaining cloudy overnight, partly sunny, and 40 in Albany, 39 in Schenectady, 41 in Troy. This is the radio station where the music always comes first. This is The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Rock and roll without the hard edge.
Put up a parking lot.
The River, 99.5 WRVE. Joni Mitchell, and they've paved paradise and put up a parking lot in its place. There's the big yellow taxi. Joe Cocker before that with The Letter, done live, of course. Bonnie Raitt, Something to Talk About, and we started out with JT and his Steamroller Blues. Coming up, we got one for Maurice, and Paul, listening in Albany this afternoon. Steve Miller Band is coming up in just a moment. The River reminds you the Capital District Hospice is offering new classes to help people recover from grief. The classes are held on the second Wednesday of each month and are free. For more information, you can call us at 346-9999. In touch with the Capital District, we're The River, 99.5 WRVE, with the Steve Miller Band. The River, 99.5 WRVE, the air that I breathe, the Hollies from England. And, of course, Steve Miller Band before that, Abracadabra, and bingo, you've got the station you've been waiting for, The River, 99.5 WRVE. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. I'm Chris Warren. We'll regularly be with you on Saturday mornings from 6 till 10. Hope you'll join us, but we'll stick around for the remainder of the afternoon into the early evening. Just a minute or so, you're away, just a moment or so away from Eric Clapton, plus CCR and Julian Lennon are coming up on The River.
The future is now.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from The River, remaining high of 44. Partly sunny now and 40 in Albany, 39 in Schenectady, 41 in Troy. This is The River, 99.5 WRVE, where we never talk over the beginning of your favorite songs. The River, with Janis Joplin, me and Bobby McGee. Also heard from Chrissy Hind and the Pretenders, Don't Get Me Wrong, and Wonderful Tonight from Eric Clapton. On The River, 99.5 WRVE. We're the new choice for your workplace. We're The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, with John's oldest, Julian Lennon, named after his John's mother, Julia. And, of course, Too Late for Goodbyes. Before that, Steely Dan, Peg, and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Looking out my back door, I see cloudy skies and about 40 degrees, actually. And welcome to The River, 99.5 WRVE. Here are the Stones. The River, 99.5 WRVE, with Elton John. The River, 99.5 WRVE. When's the last time you heard that song? What a good one from Elton John. That's 60 years on. Before that, we heard music from Mr. Broken Wings. Remember the Rolling Stones and Wild Horses. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. I'm Chris Warren. We're at 423, and you found us, the new River, 99.5 WRVE, where we've got the exclusive AccuWeather forecast coming up next, and that'll be followed by Billy Joel.
Dame Media is proud to welcome use only as directed.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from The River. Remaining, it's cloudy and 40 in Albany, 39 in Schenectady, 41 in Troy. Finally, a rock and roll station for grown-ups. This is The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Rock and roll without the hard edge. How are you on a Sunday afternoon? I'm Chris Warren. And that's Toad the Wet Sprocket and Walk on the Ocean. We heard Billy Joel's Piano Man before that. That's, of course, the one he does, as somebody reminded me a moment ago, the one he does as his encore at the end of the show. Sunday afternoon. Normally with you Saturdays from 6 to 10. We hope you'll join us then, 6 to 10 a.m., but it is 4:35 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon with about 40 degrees and some cloudy skies on the outside. And coming up, some Foreigner music, if you'll stick around. The River reminds you right now, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program offers free tax help to older taxpayers, people with disabilities, and those who don't speak English. They have several sites in the area, including a new one in Troy. For more information, you can call us right here at 346-9999. In touch with the Capital District, we're The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. On a Sunday afternoon, it feels like the first time. There's Foreigner, and before that, Bob Seger, his Silver Bullet Band, Against the Wind. How are you on this Sunday afternoon? I'm Chris Warren, 445, and we're going to check the Accuweather Forecast coming up in just a few moments, and then get back to it with Rod Stewart, Jefferson Airplane, and Warren Zevon, all coming up at the River, 99.5 WRVE.
Hello, is this a healthy deli?
I am not leaving here without my son.
Here's your exclusive AccuWeather forecast from the River. It's cloudy and 40 in Albany, 39 in Schenectady, 41 in Troy. It's an amazing variety of rock and roll on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River with John Cougar Mellencamp and a Lonely Old Night. Before that, Rod the Mod, if I say it right, Stewart, and Stay With Me. And the Eagles started us out with A Victim of Love. The River, 99.5 WRVE.